hello, vanakkam, namaskar, and welcome to yet another episode of my podcast series, The People I Meet. My name is Shruti Vijay Kumar Vasant. I'm a radio jockey from Chennai. And on today's episode, I am going to be introducing to you a very, very creative and a fun young talent. So with the advent of social media today, there's been a lot of opportunity for several young people to sort of, people in general, not necessarily young, but several people to sort of display their talent and their creativity across different platforms. And today my guest is one such person who literally became viral with his 1-minute series. He is someone who is fantastic with the sort of music that he creates. He is a writer and also, like most millennials of this generation, is very often faced with the existential crisis. As am I. It gives me a lot of happiness to introduce and welcome on to my podcast a very young, talented and a very, very fun content creator and a good friend, Arjun Manohar. Welcome to the show, Arjun. How are you?
Hello. That was quite a long and winded compliment which I've not heard in like our 5 years of friendship. So thank you for that.
See, that is what friendship is about. Friendship is about saying these things when it matters the most. And I think I've always told you this because in a way, like I'm like this elder person in your life who always hits you on the head and says, no, what you're doing is wrong. But I also compliment you on the days when you do good stuff. So I think that's how our friendship has sort of worked through the years, right?
Yes, that's true. But it's nice, man. It's nice that it's been if I'm not wrong, I think I met you in 2015 where you acted in a YouTube video that I was assisting on. Cut to 5 years later, I'm on your podcast as a content creator. This is just making me think of what the last 5 years has been in general on the whole.
True. See, that's what, sometimes, first of all, I am huge on, life coming a full circle. I am a believer of all of these things. Sometimes it takes a few incidents to sort of get the ball rolling for us and get us to the places that we are today. So honestly, if you had asked me 5 years ago, or if you had asked anybody what they would be doing in 2020, they would have probably gotten the wrong answer. But jokes apart, all of us have sort of had this a major transformation in terms of where we see ourselves and the kind of work that we're doing, which I think my podcast is also sort of result of that. But going back and talking about your journey itself, the past 5 years, you started off assisting and working behind the scenes and doing a lot of stuff for YouTube in general. So how did this sort of transformation happen for you? Because I know that you always wanted to be associated with creating content. That's been the aim right from the beginning. So take us through that process.
Yeah, like you just said, I was always keen on creating content in the long run, and that was something that I always wanted to do. But yes, again, 5 years before, when the whole thing started, my goal, or per se my aim, which has drastically changed at this point, was to become a film director. That was my entire only goal of life, was to direct one Tamil film at some point in life, right?
Right.
But somewhere in those last 3 to 5 years in the process is what I realized is that I like creating content. It really doesn't matter on which platform it is. It really doesn't matter about how long it's going to be, how many hours, minutes or seconds it's going to be. If it's a piece of content, I would like to do it. And I think that also gets us to your next part of the question, which is transitioning from YouTube to a platform like Instagram, right? 2 reasons. One, YouTube, to be honest, I wouldn't say it's dying, but it has comparatively dropped from the consumption levels have dropped over the last 5 years. 2, we as a generation going forward are only going to start consuming shorter pieces of content. We want micro content. Give me everything in under 1 minute and leave. I don't want to sit down and watch something for 2 hours anymore.
Right.
So that was one of the reasons why I thought Instagram is 1 minute content. Okay, fine. I think that. And the third main reason is I'm lazy. I can't sit down and edit a 6-minute video anymore. I would rather make 6 1-minute videos and post for a week on Instagram. That's my game right now.
Right.
Yeah.
No, but I think, see, that's a very sensible approach towards life itself, because I feel, people who constantly adapt and go with the flow sort of understand what the strong point is, or understand what they need to be doing to make it successful. Of course, again, success is something that is a very, very subjective term, which I think I've discussed quite a number of times, with the several guests on my podcast. But going back and talking about this process itself, Arjun, because see, creativity is not something like when we open a tap, it just flows for us. And today we decide, oh, we are going to make this amazing content. It's going to hit 100K views. And then we are going to become the next Ambani. It doesn't work like that. To be very honest,
I wish it was like that at some point, because to be honest, yes, that's what most people think. When people who are outside of this business who look at us and think that, oh, they have it easy. They just have to make a video. Bro, I have to make a video. Do you know how much thought process and mental pressure goes into 1 minute of content? I'm sure they don't get that, but yeah.
No, but that's the thing with everything in life in general, right? So a lot of times we sort of have this idea of what is happening with the outside world, with what is happening in general. We always are quick to judge. We're always, as a society, it just works. We're all guilty of it. We've all done it at some point where we say, hey, what for them? They have it easy. But again, this switch to creating content or making content for Instagram, I know is not an easy task at all. Trust me, being a content creator is one of the most toughest things to do in the world, because like I said again, creativity is not something that's available everywhere just like that. So being a content creator, you know that it was a conscious choice. So how acceptable is it to your family? Because coming from the society that we come from, right? A lot of people want us to have a very secure job. A lot of expectation comes from our degrees. And a lot of expectation comes from பக்கத்து வீட்டுக்காரங்க என்ன சொல்லுவாங்க. How do I introduce my son as a content creator? So tell me how you handle that.
Yeah. Like you said, we live in a very judgmental society, which is just already out there, irrespective of which class you belong to. So I would also like to assume that you also fall into the upper middle class category, just like me. And like you said, our parents' only goal in life is to tell the other person what their son or their daughter is doing. That's all they need in life. That is their visiting card, or that's their report card saying, look at my son, look at my daughter types, right? And my dad's a mutual fund consultant. My mom's a housewife. They have nothing to do with the industry I'm in at this point. But when I initially did tell them, they completely they completely said no. They said, this is not happening. And to make things worse, my dad's sister was also an actress.
Okay.
She used to do a lot of films in the 80s. She was a pretty popular heroine back then. She's worked with Kamal sir and stuff like that. But so my dad, who's been a part of the industry, was always scared, saying, I know what this industry is like and you are not the person who can make it there. You are a very bola bala, don't try to do something that you're not good at and get stuck. But that's the thing. So like you said, we all need to trace back where we come from, right? That's how you figure out who you are and how you can make yourself a better person tomorrow. So when I was tracing back to my childhood, I realized that I've always wanted to just create content. I used to just pick up my phone camera, which introduced the Nokia 5230 phone camera.
Right.
8th or 9th, I used to go down, call all the kids of my flat, make them act a scene out, shoot it, edit it later on. And not show to anybody. Just to know that I can do this, right?
Right.
And this came, but I was always shut down by the parents and by the society, saying that this is not something you're supposed to do. So that started the rebel inside me also, saying, why shouldn't I do it? Right. I will do it, and I will show you that I can do it. From there, just to convince them, when I started off as a social media manager in a digital agency.
Right.
That's where I learned how to write, how to edit, how to make music. All of that was in 1 year. But my job profile was still social media manager.
Right.
That's how I convinced them to enter. And once I kind of got settled and started making money out of it, I could tell them that, hey, listen, I'm making money. That's all you want. I'm good. So chill. This is the talk we had.
Right.
I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
No, it does. See, because all of us have very different approaches when it comes to handling a scenario like this. Because just listening to you sort of talk about this takes me back to the times when my parents never understood what a master of ceremonies was, because that was primarily what I do. That is how I entered the industry per se. And when I started doing it, it was something that, everybody says, oh, if you're an MC, you're going to be out late, you're going to be out doing this, you're expected to dress a certain way, there's going to be a lot of people. And obviously when you're a female, there's a lot more, sort of baggage that comes with it. So it was only after I sort of became an RJ and my parents saw me actually going to a physical office. They were like, oh, now I can tell people that my daughter has a job. So it was still that. Like, I don't think to date my parents sort of understand what I do for a living. But I get where you're coming from, and I get where, I understand what you feel when, parents have this expectation of us and they sort of expect us to understand them, which I think we are sort of doing at this point now that we've learned to bridge the gap and make them feel like, hey, we're taking care of ourselves, and that's sort of where we want to be.
That's where we also there's this word, minimum guarantee.
Yeah.
You're supposed to complete degree.
Yes.
Do degree, then do whatever you want. That is their basically, like, they at least have to go out to the world and say, listen, my son or my daughter is a graduate.
Right.
And I know this is slightly off topic, but we'll just get back quickly. What I feel is, as a concept itself, I feel college and school is not useful anymore, man. All the information you need is out there. You just need to have the interest to go and pick out what you need at this point.
Right.
It probably teaches you socializing skills. It probably teaches you how to go through practical difficulties of life to a certain extent.
Right.
But the actual world is very different from what you learn in school, dude. This making our parents understand, it's taken us a generation. Let's just be fair about it. It's taken us an entire generation to realize this. So, yeah.
It's a very fair observation, Arjun, because I remember having this conversation with somebody else where we were talking about how are we utilizing any of the mathematic lessons. Of course, if you are somebody who has gone into that field, then yes, it is understandable. But apart from that, instead of being taught to do your basic taxes or finance or life skills, you are taught algebra and trigonometry, where I don't remember when I asked anybody what is sine theta or cos theta. But yes, that is a conversation for another day. But all right, getting back and talking about, this whole idea of content creation. Today, being a content creator has both its ups and its downs, as with any job, as with any industry, right? So what do you sort of view as the highs or the pros of the sort of industry that you are in? And what do you think are the very common misconceptions that people have about content creators?
Okay, misconceptions, like I said, the first and the most annoying one is the fact that they feel we are public property, which we are in any person, including you. You're an RJ, you put yourself out there, so you are open to criticism. That's fine.
Right.
But when you get, there's a very big difference between stating what you want and breaking the other person down. And once you become a content creator, you have to prepare yourself on a mental level that I am putting out a video today. I need to be okay with harassment, which is not okay. I wouldn't say that's not a great place that we're moving towards, to be honest, considering India's just started with the content boom. It's just been 5 years where the whole content boom has taken place, and people are killing it in the scene, right? So down south it's even worse. North, even up north, there's a sense of they're at least 3 years ahead of us in the whole scene. Down south, we are just starting. People have just understood the game. So yeah, common misconception 1 is that it's easy. Common misconception 2 is that you can say whatever you like and however you like, which is not supposed to be the case. And 3 is the fact that, which you just said, creativity is not a tap. There are going to be 10 days where you don't feel like even getting up out of your bed. And there are going to be 100 days where you feel like, I don't want to stop. I want to keep putting one more video on the same day. Why not? If I'm in that field, I would rather do that, right? So it's a very mind space driven thing, which you can't make a lot of brands, people and society understand. That's the problem. I mean, I'm sure there are other professions that have way more struggles, but because you asked me to point out what are the common misconceptions, these are, in my opinion, the most common misconceptions out there.
No, I think that's, again, see, only if you are in those shoes, you understand what it feels like, right? Because to the outside world, there's a lot of judgment, there's a lot of idea or assumptions that people have of every industry, right? I have never worked in a proper corporate job. I have never had a desk job. So I would never be able to say what goes on inside a software company because I do not have the lightest idea. Similarly, when somebody from the outside looks at a YouTuber or a content creator or somebody from the media industry, they have these misconceptions, which is like a very normal sort of thing. But yes, I think there's a lot more talk about it. There are people out there who are telling them, listen, please understand, just because we are a public personality, it does not mean that you can target us. Right? Harassment in any form is absolutely not okay, even if it is cyber, because a lot of people feel that behind the screen, they can say whatever it is that they feel like because nobody is going to ask them. What maximum, it will be an argument on social media and then we'll report and then, the story goes forward from there.
And then we block them. That's what happens.
Exactly, right?
We block them. But on the note that you were saying, right, like I like how you said, I don't want to comment about a desk job because I don't know what goes into it. The irony is that we think this way. The people in the desk job think they know our job, but they don't. They really don't know what we do, dude. And I'm not blaming them. They just think it's easy because it looks like we're doing it easily. But brother, there's a 5-year to 10-year to 15-year work behind that's gone into it for it to look so seamless on screen, right? Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to just for example's sake, man, let's talk about Alia Bhatt. First movie, Student of the Year. She was the biggest troll of the North. Every meme was Alia Bhatt meme. That Alia Bhatt is dumb, Alia Bhatt can't act, blah, blah, blah. She does 5 movies. Then she's a national award winner. Now people want to watch a movie for Alia Bhatt. That's practice. That's not, she didn't magically start acting out of the blue. If she did, she could have done the first movie. Mm-hmm. She didn't. That comes out of years of practice. So before you start trolling saying you're bad at it, bro, imagine how bad you were in your first job.
Exactly.
That's how bad we are every day. Because our game is evolving every day, literally. And we need to run that race, man. That's very hard. It looks easy, but it's damn hard.
No, it is because like you rightly said, right? And I think Alia Bhatt was a great example because a lot of people, the first thing we do as a society when something new comes and we don't sort of understand it and we don't sort of like it, we bash it, right? We bash it left, right, center. We say, no, it's not acceptable. This cannot be the way things happen because we have a certain expectation of how we want certain things to be done. So if an actress is this, an actress has to be this way. If a director is doing this, he has to make films only this way. If an actor is, spewing these amazing mass punch dialogues, he has to continue making films like that. The moment he switches gears, everything goes for a toss. And, even for that matter, even when we take sports, it's like that, right? Because after entertainment, sports again is a very, very huge part of our lives as Indians. So yeah, I totally understand where you're coming from. And that actually brings me to my next question that I wanted to ask you, which you yourself brought up, which is running the rat race, right? Today, as much as we say that the numbers don't matter or that the follower count on Instagram doesn't matter or, these milestones that we hit virtually don't matter, at the end of the day, we all celebrate those little things because it just gives us the sort of validation that something we are doing is affecting somebody, is influencing them in the right way. I'm only talking about that at this point because to me, social media is a very positive place and I would like to see it that way. So coming from a place and having seen this growth over the past 5 years, today you have almost like 33,000 people following you and following your work and validating a lot of things that you're doing. Your 1-minute series was a huge hit. And today the thing that you're doing with the reality show, people actually watch that more than the show itself. So how does that sort of feel? How does that make you feel, Arjun?
Okay, so yeah, like you said, numbers matter. No matter how many times we sit down and try to make ourselves and the other people around us feel better about lying that numbers don't matter. You and me know that every content creator knows their followers down to the last number.
Right.
Not 100, 10, no. They know to the last number. They just lie like, I think I have something around a lakh. No. You know how many you have. Don't lie to me when you say I have something around a lakh. So, see, the thing is, it's at the end of the day, don't you think all artists, we work only majorly, yes, money is important for survival because we need to pay our bills and stuff, but validation is what we all run for and nothing else. It's just one text that says, hey bro, your video made my day. I would work for 5 days for that one text. I don't care even if I don't get paid. Because deep down, we're all very insecure. As artists in general, we're all very insecure. Just that a lot of people don't want to come out and talk about it, don't want to address it, and they just think that by playing the superior card, which is the whole I am too hard to get, for lack of a better word, when they play that card, it makes them look like wanted to the outsider. But you and me as artists can spot them, saying, hey bro, you're doing this for this, don't lie to me. And to be honest, we're at a zone of life right now or time right now where even the audience can find out. You can't lie to anybody, That's the thing, right? One, and to answer your second part of the question, which is 1 minute series, yes, I like, and I mean, I want to connect back to a statement that you made earlier that said, when an actor who does punch dialogues only does punch dialogues, they would want him to do that for the rest of their life. And when he tries to switch gears, the society bashes them down, right? I see that happening with me. Like, I know right. I've not reached that level yet, but whatever small audience I've built, I can see it. When I don't put out I haven't put out under a minute in a very long time. Just because I wanted to let my audience wait. I was like, you wait. I will do it when I want to do it. Because when I started off, it was a very normal thing. I saw a short film that released on YouTube, which I don't want to name. It was done by a very big director from down south. He did the short film. It was a 12-minute short film. I saw it and I was like, man, this is so boring. It would have been said in a minute. This was that was the first thought. I did a video just for the fun of it. And when that picked up, I was like, okay, now there's a game in this. Now I need to play this game, find out what people like about this and repeat it. So I did it repeatedly for like 10 movies. At the end of the 10th movie, I felt I was doing this just for that reach. And I know I want reach, but when you start doing it just for the reach, you see the performance falling. Okay. And that happens. That generally, it at least happened to me. My videos started not performing well because I kept doing the repeated thing again and again and again and again, right? So somewhere, yes, I do want to break out of my shell right now and just do something that's really absurd and not my style at all. But it also does scare me. When I see the unfollows per day when I put out a bad video, I'm like, okay, I am not doing this anymore. Let me go back to doing under a minute is the mind space I'm at right now.
I appreciate this honesty, Arjun, to be very fair, because this numbers game has been something that has played on a lot of people's minds, okay, especially with social media changing its algorithm very often, and content creation itself playing such a huge role in a lot of people's livelihoods, because a lot of people today are dependent on this, right? Because it's also a creative way for them to express themselves, but it's also money. Right? Because at the end of the day, like you said, at the end of the day, we are here to pay bills. We are bound by a certain expectation and we all want to make sure we are at the top of our games, right? And we want that validation because like you said, as human beings, an artist, an actor or anybody for that matter, when somebody comes up to you and tells you, hey bro, I like your performance in this, or I thought this video was great, I thought you acted well in it, that's all the validation that we work for, right? And we're very happy with that. Because at the end of the day, that is what translates into us doing good work. All right. So talking about this, whole rat race game and everything, have you ever looked at a content creator and felt like he's not that good? He or she is not that good. Why does he or she have this number? What is wrong with people? Have you ever felt that?
Many times, every day, even before I just got onto the Zoom call with you, I was looking at somebody and said, really? You? I mean, see, that's the thing, Shruti. I feel that, as content creators, we are very judgmental because our job is to create content out of other people's lives. Let's just face it. We search for content everywhere we go. Literally, we're going in an auto, we see that guy talking in a weird way, like, okay, that's something interesting. I would want to know what he's talking, right? We're always on the lookout for something interesting to turn into content in the future. Maybe not even consciously, even subconsciously, we're always in that loop. And when you do, I have seen, there are even down south, dude. Down south, I've seen a lot of creators who I've seen, and I've just gone, this is not even funny. This is just relatable. There's a difference between relatable content and funny content. Relatable content can be funny, but it's not always the same. But a lot of people who I've seen, this are talking about guys. Girls have a very different perspective, which will make me sound sexist at some level. So I don't want to even get into that angle, to be honest. But the guys part, I've seen that these guys who make great numbers, they don't necessarily have to do good content. They have to do relatable content. And I agree, man. I just think that I can't play that game.
Right.
I would like to think that I don't find that funny, and something that I don't find funny, I don't want to do. I don't want to push myself to hit 100K by this month end. Like, I had that target. I'll be honest with you also. Small deviation, but I'll quickly get back. I was playing a really strong number game 2 months ago. I was in a lock that before my birthday comes, I want to hit 100K. That was one of my biggest goals at that point. But in the 2 months, Instagram algorithm like screwed us all over in that sense that they changed it, and now we have to spend money to get reach.
Right.
But the other way around also, I realized that by doing that, I'm just killing my enthu to even do a video. I don't want to do a video because I have to. I want to do a video because I want to. And there's a very big difference between the two, right? I'm still trying to hit that I want to game instead of I have to game. So this is where I think the content race kind of starts in that sense. And yeah, to just sum it up, there are a lot of people who don't deserve those followers and they're still getting them. And it's not funny at all. I just hope at some level people get to know more about people like me, you, and all of these guys who actually deserve more followers at this point.
Right. This is as honest as it gets, man, because at the end of the day, you know what? It boils down to this, right? It boils down to quality versus quantity. Right? We've always believed in that. And I think somewhere you and I have a very similar code of ethics in terms of that. Because at the end of the day, if you are going to play for the numbers, if you are going to play for a particular type of audience, or you're going to play to just make sure you're hitting that, you can do whatever it is that you want to do. You don't have to create a certain kind of content, or you don't have to be true to who you are as a person to reach there. But however slow and steady, if you are going to go by your gut instinct and go by who you are as a person and keep playing at it and keep working at it, eventually that is going to come, and that following is going to stay, right?
That's true. Well, like you just said, just to add a small point to it, yes, consistency does give you numbers. But I'll be very honest, two things that won't happen in the long run is, one, you're not going to be happy about what you're doing, which is sad in the sense by itself. And the second point, like you said, the audience that you build, they're just going to be floating audience. They see somebody else better, they're definitely going to leave you and just go into that loop. But the audience that we are building, they're niche. They are here, they're still sticking to us because they like us as a personality and not just our content. They're just not consuming content, they're consuming us as content, and that is a very big difference in by itself, I feel. So that sticks, hopefully.
Very well put. Very well put. And I think this sort of comes from a place of understanding, a place of, I want to call it wisdom, I want to call it experience, because now I can safely say with the 5-year game that you have sort of been in, whether it's been working with YouTube companies, whether it's working as a social media executive, whether it's creating your own content, you've sort of been there in all of those different levels and capacities and sort of understood what works and what doesn't. So sort of summing up this conversation, Arjun, we've spoken about a lot of different things. We've spoken about your life as a content creator as such over the past 5 years. But 5 years ago, or not even say 5 years ago, when you sort of understood that this is what you wanted to be, apart from the numbers game, what is it that Arjun truly wanted to achieve with being a content creator?
Validation. I know that was really quick, but that's my answer, man. I I like being. This is something that I also just trace back to my childhood, and it comes from a place of not being seen for a very long time in my life, which is throughout school. Because I studied in a school which had like 6,000, 7,000 people entirely in 1 year, right? So, like there's no chance I was going to get noticed because I was not rich, I was not talented, like conventionally talented, or I was that kid who didn't get the chance when I was in school, and that kind of piled up through 12 years of just all of that angst. And when I came out, I realized that, man, I just want to be seen. I want people to tell me that I'm good. I know it sounds really wrong or whatever, I don't care, but I just feel validation at the end of the day. I want people to first validate and tell me that they like my work. And the second one, which kind of topped it in the last 3 months, which was the growth, is that just a simple text that says, bro, your video made my day. That is what I'm running for right now. At this point, I think that text gives me more mental peace than anything else. And yeah, that's basically it. One is validation. Two is the fact that I can make people happy. And a small story that happened recently is there's a girl, not even a girl, she's actually like technically my akka type. She's been living in my flat in one house above me since I was a child. And I haven't spoken to her in around, I think, 12 years. It's been around 12 years since I spoke to her because there were like some issues, and at some point, man, I just became a teenager. She grew up something. I just didn't speak to her for a really long time. And recently she came down to my house just to talk to my parents about my Instagram videos. And she started crying in the process, saying, I never thought that this kid would become something. And this kid, I would watch this kid and feel happy about my day is something I never saw coming. I don't know how happy I am. I don't know how happy. I don't know how to tell you how happy I am. And that, I know it sounds like a very melodramatic moment, but then for me, when I wasn't even there to witness this. I felt so bad, but when my mom came and told me, that was peak validation for me. I was like, man, I don't think it can get better than this, man. Like a person I haven't spoken to in 12 to 15 years, who I know from my childhood, if she is able to feel good about something that I've done, and because of something I've done, I think I've achieved like what I started off for. Whatever I get after this is bonus for me. So I'm in that mind space right now.
No, none of what you said is wrong at all, Arjun. I am very, very proud of the fact that you had this one person who came up and told your parents this. Because, see, very honestly, at the end of the day, this is what we all work for. Validation is something that we all enjoy. The attention that comes with it, the criticism, the good, the bouquets, the brickbats, all of it, right? It all boils down to someone looking up to us and saying, you made my day. And that's all we crave for. As human beings, it is as simple as that one sentence. And I feel your pain. I feel the way you expressed as to you just wanted to be that kid who showed the world what you were capable of, because 12 years you didn't get that opportunity. I know so many children out there who are feeling that at this moment. So to anybody who is listening, to anybody who wants to be heard, we are here, we are listening to you. We know that you will get the platform that you deserve. We know that you will one day be heard, you will be spoken about, and the validation that you truly crave for, you will get it. This is me and Arjun telling you that because we've been on that side. We know what that feels like. So yeah, I just wanted to say that thank you so much, Arjun, for putting that out there, because, at the end of the day, this is why I do what I do as well. This story of yours, a lot of people may not have heard because you may not have spoken about it, right? And today I'm telling you, I'm so proud of your growth. I'm so happy to have known you and to have seen you from that, from our first initial YouTube days where I attempted to act to today where we are both doing our own different things. It's been one hell of a journey, and I'm so glad to see you become the person that you are today. So the last question that I have for you today is, Arjun, to anybody who's listening right now, what would you as a person, forget the content creator part, as a person, what would you like to tell them?
As a person, it's going to be very, very short. I would also want to say something as a content creator after which, but as a person, it's just be nice, be kind, and most importantly, unbasism. like just if everybody can live by this line, I feel the world would be a way better place. And sadly, not a lot of people do that. So that is just Arjun as the person. And Arjun as the content creator is keep doing what you're doing and do it just because you like it. And that consistency will yield before you know it. So these are the two things that I want to end with by saying.
I think that's one of the most sincere conversations that I've had. And, a lot of times in life, we have this epiphany, or we have these moments where we think, hey, is this the person that we knew? Right? We sort of have these things where we are at a loss for words, and we totally go back and we evaluate the sort of relationship that we have or the ideas that we had about the other person. So today I end this conversation with a completely new understanding of who you are as a person, and I think it has paved way for a lot more openness. It has paved way for a lot more people who are listening, who are sort of trying to understand this whole content creation game. Right? At the end of the day, everybody, like you said, likes the validation, likes the attention, and there's nothing wrong in accepting that. We all want to be seen, we all want to be heard, we all want to be accepted. Anbe Sivam is a beautiful way to sort of wrap up this conversation.
I want to just finish up because Neena, you've already given your share of what you felt about me and my growth and all of that. I also want to just give a small note about us, about our journey as a separate thing. And I want to start that off by, you just said that this is one of the most sincerest conversations you've had, because I don't know how many conversations you had with friends. That's I think that is one of the major reasons why this was this easy for me. It doesn't. I don't feel like I'm doing a podcast, and I feel like I'm just sitting and chatting with you, and this is normal. We've done this like I don't know how many times, right?
Yes.
That is one. Two is it's great to see what you're doing and how you're doing it, and with the grace at which you're doing it, because I still remember there was this one day, I think 4 years ago, when you and me were at Besant Nagar, near Besant Nagar beach. We were, I think, at some stall eating something, and you told me that, Macha, I want to become an RJ. And that's one thing that I very I remember it so clearly even today. It feels like yesterday to me, to be honest. And it's so nice. Cut to 3 years later, you're an RJ. You're doing what you like. You're married. What all you wanted. What all you told me on that day. You did all of that in the last 3 years, and it's just like you said. It feels surreal to sit down and just talk about. Oh, we've gone through this together, man. This feels really cool that we've known each other for 5 years and our lives are poles apart from what we were then to what we are now and what we're going to be tomorrow. So thank you for having me, and I don't know what else to say. To anybody who's coming after this, I am the most sincerest person. You heard that from Shruti herself.
All of what you said is very true. And like you said, to be very honest, when we were having this conversation, also the visual of our conversation at Besant Nagar was very honestly flashing through my head, because I think even during that time we were at that, the existential life crisis moment where we were talking about what we wanted, from each other's lives. And cut to today, we are here, we are doing the things that we're doing, and I think we are truly in love with what we're doing, and that's what makes us who we are. At the end of the day, anything that you do with love translates into something that is beautiful. That's what I always believe in. And thank you so much once again, Arjun, for joining me. So to anybody who is listening who wants to follow Arjun on social media, you can follow him on a very different spelling. It's or.junn. Arjun Manohar, ladies and gentlemen, that's who you heard on today's episode of my podcast series, The People I Meet. So with that, we come to an end on today's episode. I'm going to be catching you with yet another interesting story, yet another interesting personality, on yet another interesting episode of my podcast series, The People I Meet. My name is Shruti Vijay Kumar Vasant. I'm a radio jockey from Chennai. And until we see each other the next time, it's me saying, take good care of yourself and stay safe. Thank you for tuning in.